Frost glittered like broken glass across the parking lot. Two kids, thin coats, knuckles white, stood under a dead streetlight. "If Mama dies, we'll die too," the boy said, voice shaking clouds into the cold. The Hells Angels captain killed his engine, swung a boot down, and faced their fear head-on. Before we start this story, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Also, please subscribe to the channel. It will help us to bring you more inspiring stories every day. Early winter clamped down on Whistler Flats, a town that looked tired even in daylight. At dusk, the Hells Angels convoy rolled past the shuttered feed store, exhaust carving pale ghosts in the freezing air. Nash Rourke, chapter captain, signaled a halt by the old laundromat, just in time to see two kids step out from the shadow of a busted soda machine. The boy was maybe 9, the girl a head shorter, both wearing backpacks way too light for the season. "Sir?" The boy tried, swallowing hard. "Please. Our mom, Taryn, she's on the floor. In there." He pointed toward the darkened hallway behind the coin changers. "She can't breathe. I think she's dying." Nash crushed his cigarette, eyes already scanning entries, angles, escape lines. Fletcher Vale, his second, peeled off 2 riders to watch the street. Doc Laramie jogged past with a med kit, breath smoking. The girl clutched Nash's cut with tiny frozen fingers. "If Mama dies, we'll die too." "Not tonight," Nash said. "Not in my town." They found Taryn Walsh half-conscious on cracked tile, skin clammy with fever, an inhaler empty beside her. The hall smelled like old bleach and cold metal. Doc knelt calm as a winter lake. "Asthma gone sideways," he muttered, drawing a bronchodilator from the kit. "Pulse thin." "She's crashing." Nash knelt opposite, steadying her shoulder as the nebulizer hissed. The twins, Piper and Bo, stood pressed together, eyes shining with that brittle fear kids learn too young. "You stay with me," Nash told them, voice a blanket in the cold. "Doc's got your mom." A door banged at the end of the corridor. Fletcher turned, hand up. 3 men drifted in, cheap jackets, mean grins, carelessly sober. The tallest smirked at the patch on Nash's back. "Looks like charity night." Nash rose slow, winter in his eyes. "Keep walking, or what? You'll pray me warm." The smirk twitched when 2 more angels filled the hallway without raising their voices. The men hesitated, pride losing to math. Boots retreated. Doc's thumb lifted. "She's breathing. We move her now." They slid Taryn onto a folded top and carried her out into air sharp enough to bite. The convoy idled curbside, lights washing brick in orange. Nash lifted Piper into the sidecar, then Bo. "Seatbelts," he said, clicking them with a gentleness that didn't match his knuckles. Doc climbed into the van with Taryn, mask still humming. Fletcher took point. "Route?" "Back road along Winter's Bridge," Nash said. "Clinic's closer than the county ER, and we own the waiting room." Snow dusted down like sifted flour. As they rolled, Piper stared at Nash's mirror, like keeping his eyes in view kept the world steady. "Are we in trouble?" "Only with boredom," he said. "That's all I'm writing you up for," Bo whispered. "Will she wake up?" Nash split his attention between the road and the kids. "Yeah, kid. She'll see the morning light and get mad at the bills." Behind them, Whistler Flats shrank to a smear of neon and frost. Ahead, the bridge rose like a steel prayer. Northline Clinic wore its age with stubborn dignity. 2 exam rooms, 1 space heater, a lobby of mismatched chairs. The angels rolled in and parked like bookends against the night. Inside, Nurse Hallie yanked curtains wide, saw the patch, didn't flinch. "Put her here," she ordered, already hanging fluids. Doc and Hallie worked in a rhythm that sounded like hope. Taryn's chest eased. Color whispered back into her cheeks. Piper balanced on the chair's edge, watching every breath like it might be the last. Bo slid closer to Nash until their sleeves touched. "Family?" Hallie asked, snapping a line into place. Nash answered without thinking. "Yeah." Then gentler. Yeah, we are. Fletcher brought cocoa from the vending machine that always ate singles for sport. Piper wrapped both hands around the cup like it was July. Why are you helping us? She asked. Nash looked through the glass at the line of Harleys crusted with frost. Because somebody did it for me once. And because I hate seeing brave kids scared. Allie smiled sideways. Then you're in the right room. An hour crawled by. The heater thunked, wind whining through old seals. Taryn's eyelids fluttered. She focused, then flinched at the oxygen mask, panic skittering across her face. Doc leaned in. Easy, ma'am. You're safe. Kids are here. Piper sprang up, finger squeezing Taryn's wrist. Beau's chin wobbled, then set hard like a little man trying to carry a house. Mama! Hey, baby! Taryn rasped, tears pooling. I'm not going anywhere. Nash stepped back to give them room, but Taryn grabbed his sleeve. Why? Because cold nights don't get the last word, he said. Not while we're around. Fletcher slipped in from the lot, voice low. Heads up. The 3 jokers from the laundromat circled back with friends. 6, maybe 7. Hanging by Depot Alley. Nash's nod was slow, inevitable. He met Piper's eyes, then Beau's. You two keep your battle station. Right here, guarding Mom with Hallie and Doc. He turned to his men. Mount up. We don't start fights. We finish winters. The Angels rolled out from the clinic like a steel tide, tires hissing over powder. Depot Alley, cut between brick stacks, where the rail once fed the mills. 7 men waited there, hands in pockets that bulged the wrong way. Their leader, stringy beard, cheap parka, grinned at the patches. Nash parked, kickstand biting ice. Street's closed, he said. Ambulance work. Didn't see any ambulance, the leader snorted. You're looking at it. Fletcher's smile never reached his eyes. The men tried swagger. The cold stole half of it. Nash didn't raise his voice. There's a mom breathing again because we showed up. You want trouble with that? A knife flashed. Bad choice. 3 angels stepped forward in unison, boots precise, shoulders touching, a wall in leather. The knife hand hovered, then sagged. Bravado knocked flat by geometry and intent. Tell whoever sent you, Nash said, stepping closer. Whistler Flats isn't for sale tonight. He backed them out with nothing but presence, the alley returning to snowfall and silence. Back at Northline, Hallie taped a hand-lettered sign over the door, closed for good trouble. Doc grinned. Best clinic policy I've seen. Taryn dozed. Steady now. Nash settled on a plastic chair as the twins drifted against him like little moons. Hallie poured coffee and lowered her voice. The alley boys, probably Royce Kincaid's grab-and-scare crew. He buys overdue rentals for pennies, pushes folks out before winter hits. Nash's jaw flexed. Taryn's landlord? Hallie nodded. Rent doubled after the mill closed. She cleans cabins out by Snowline Reservoir. Overtime wrecked her lungs. Kincaid wants the unit by Friday, Fletcher whistled low. Evict a single mom in a cold snap. That's a new low, Piper stirred. We can stay anywhere, she whispered, brave and breaking at once. Long as Mama's breathing. Nash tucked a blanket around both kids. Then we make breathing easy, he said. For all 3 of you. Outside, snow whispered like an agreement. By midnight, the clinic looked like a winter outpost. Angels hauled in space heaters, wool blankets, and a battered crock pot that could feed an armory. Hallie set up a coloring table by the radiator. Beau attacked it like a mission. Piper traced flames and wings with careful lines. Warm hands, warm lungs, Doc said, adjusting Taryn's mask. Keep the room above 60. Fletcher returned with 2 volunteers from St. Bridget's shelter and a stack of legal forms. Emergency stay, he said. Buys time. Nash phoned an old contact at the utility yard. 10 minutes later, a truck backed up. Men unloaded 2 sealed windows and a door sweep for Taryn's drafty unit. Fix the house, fix the breath, Nash murmured. He watched Piper pass Beau a crayon, fingers brushing before both smiled. small mercies stacked like kindling. When Piper glanced up, she caught him looking and mouthed, "Thank you." Nash tipped 2 fingers off his brow. "You're welcome, kid." Snow deepened toward dawn, the kind that erases footpaths and bad intentions. Kincaid's men tried one last swing, 2 SUVs creeping toward Winter's Bridge, headlights dimmed. Fletcher's drone pinged them first. Nash moved the convoy fast, tires carving a defensive arc across the span. Engines idled, throats low. Exhaust drifted into a silver veil. The SUVs hesitated at a barricade of chrome and resolve. Nash walked out alone, palms empty, cold cutting his cheeks raw. "Road's closed," he said. "Bridge weight limit. 1 conscience at a time." The driver cracked his window. "Court says Friday." "Calendar says Thursday," Nash answered. "Night says you go home." Behind him, angels didn't posture. They belonged to the weather, steady as fence posts. The SUVs idled, whined, then shifted into reverse, vanishing into snowfall. Nash stood a long second, listening to ice groan in the river. "Hold till sunup," he radioed. "Then we take care of the living." Sun broke pale over Whistler Flats, turning roof frost to glitter. The angels rode slow escort to Taryn's building, cinderblock, wind-battered, windows rattling like teeth. A handful of neighbors peeked out, faces wary, curious, then softly hopeful. Hallie directed like a foreman. "Sweep under this door. Plastic over that frame. Vent cover here." Doc installed a cheap humidifier and taped a note. "Breathe easy, kiddo." Piper and Bo helped carry in groceries, oats, oranges, a jar of peanut butter big enough to anchor a boat. Nash fixed the loose stair rail with 2 lag bolts and a quiet satisfaction. Taryn stood in the doorway, scarf tucked at her throat. "I can't pay you," she said. Nash shook his head. "Not a bill. A promise, which is that you're not alone." For the first time, Taryn's smile wasn't frightened. Piper slipped her small hand into Nash's. Bo mirrored her on the other side. The captain let himself be held there, steady as winter sun. The day after, news traveled faster than the thaw. Someone had filmed the convoy leaving the clinic, chrome against snow, a mother waving weakly from the doorway. By noon, the clip had 3,000 shares, and the caption read, "When Angels Ride in Winter." Taryn watched from her couch, oxygen line trailing to the window where frost flowers still bloomed. "They shouldn't have done all this," she whispered. Hallie smiled. "You saying that to the internet now?" Piper perched beside her mother, reading comments aloud. "One woman says she's sending coats from Montana. Another's wiring money for medicine." Bo tugged at Nash's sleeve. "Does this mean Mama's famous?" Nash chuckled. "Means good travels fast when you let it." Outside, engines idled. Half the angels loading supplies for other homes, for strangers they'd never met. Nash adjusted his gloves. "Kindness," he said quietly. "Don't need roads. Just riders." 2 nights later, Whistler Flats Diner glowed like a lantern in the cold. Locals who'd once crossed streets to avoid leather jackets now filled booths shoulder to shoulder with the angels. Steam rose from coffee cups, laughter blending with the rattle of utensils. Taryn sat near the window, a shawl around her shoulders, color back in her cheeks. "I can't remember the last time people looked at me like I mattered," she said. Fletcher leaned across the table. "That's on them, not you." Nash clinked his mug. "Nah, it's on all of us. You remind folks what fighting looks like." Piper's drawing from the clinic, flames turning to angel wings, hung behind the counter, taped beside a handwritten sign, "Community First." The waitress slid another pie slice toward Bo. He grinned. "Mama says angels don't eat dessert." Nash winked. "These ones do." For the first time all winter, laughter warmed the diner louder than the heater. By early March, meltwater carved silver veins through the drifts. The hellsangels compound, once a fortress of noise, became a workshop for repair and relief. snowblowers fixed for elderly neighbors, meals packed for the shelter. News crews came expecting menace and found service. One reporter asked Nash, "Why this? Why her?" He looked past the camera to where Piper played with Doc's shepherd dog. "Because we could. Because no one else did." The clip aired nationwide. Donations flooded Hallie's clinic. People mailed blankets, inhalers, even handwritten prayers. Taryn returned to work part-time, lungs healing. She brought lunch to the crew one afternoon, sandwiches wrapped in foil hearts. "Guess I owe you all forever," she joked. Nash shook his head. "Just pass it on." And when she smiled through tears, he added, "That's the whole patch, ma'am. Ride hard. Help harder." The motto stuck. So did hope. April brought thaw and mud and the sweet ache of renewal. Children pedaled rusted bikes through puddles, laughter echoing off wet streets. The angels had patched roofs, stacked food pantries, fixed a bus stop bench. No newspaper could call it charity. It was reparation in chrome. One morning, Piper placed a drawing in Nash's hand before school. Crayon wings, a road, 3 stick figures holding hands. Across the top, she'd written, "Family isn't who you're born with. It's who rides in when you cry." Nash folded it carefully, slipping it into his jacket pocket behind the patch that read Captain. That evening, the club gathered by the river, snowmelt roaring below the bridge. Engines idled, headlights cutting dusk. Nash raised his cup. To the ones who show up. Dozens of hands lifted coffee, cocoa, or nothing but warmth. And for a breath, the world stood still, listening to the harmony of rebuilt hearts. Months later, Whistler Flats thrived again. The clinic had become the town's anchor, its walls lined with photos from the winter rescue, the convoy, the twins smiling, Taryn standing strong. A new sign above the counter read, "Hellsangels Community Fund." Fletcher dropped off paperwork, smirking. "You realize we're bureaucrats now?" Nash laughed. "Heaven help us." Outside, the twins chalked wings onto the sidewalk. When Nash walked past, they shouted, "We made you one!" He stepped into the outline, white dust marking his boots. "Guess I got promoted," he said. Taryn leaned in the doorway, wind lifting her hair. "You already were," he tipped his cap. "Maybe, but it's nice to see the proof." Engines rumbled in the distance. Another call for help, another ride to begin. The captain smiled at the horizon. "All right, boys," he said. "Let's remind the world again. Winter ends, but kindness never does." By late spring, sunlight stretched longer over Whistler Flats, gilding every chrome pipe and diner window. Nash rode alone sometimes, slow, deliberate, the Harley humming beneath him like a heartbeat he could trust. The town waved when he passed now. Not out of fear, out of thanks. One afternoon, he parked outside the elementary school. Piper and Bo sprinted across the lot, their laughter cutting through the air. "You came," they shouted, clinging to his jacket. "Wouldn't miss the art show," he said. Inside, the walls brimmed with color. One drawing showed bikers riding through snow, their headlights forming halos. Below it, "To the Hells Angels, thank you for saving my mom." Taryn stood nearby, eyes glistening. "You gave them a story worth remembering," Nash smiled. "Nah," he said softly, gazing at the paper angels. "They just reminded us what we'd forgotten." The applause that followed sounded like home. The next weeks rolled by like pages turning in a book written by second chances. Nash rebuilt what winter had broken, mending fences, repainting the diner, and fixing an old swing behind the school for the twins. His brothers from the Hells Angels chapter rode in often, bringing groceries, tools, and laughter that shook the quiet town awake. Locals started joining their charity rides again, this time not out of curiosity but pride. Kids waved flags when the Harleys thundered past, and even Sheriff Mallory began tipping his hat. One evening, As twilight brushed the sky, Nash parked his bike outside the diner. Inside, Piper was helping the cook serve hot soup, her hands steady now. Bo was at the jukebox, grinning ear to ear. Taryn poured coffee, glancing up as Nash entered. Their eyes met, no words needed. The hum of engines outside wasn't noise anymore. It was home breathing. The following Sunday, Nash stood at the edge of Stony Creek Bridge, the place where the tragedy had started months ago. Ice had melted into a steady river now, sunlight glinting off the current. He set down a small wooden plaque carved by Bo, for all who fell and those who helped them rise again. Behind him, 20 bikes lined the road, chrome catching fire in the morning light. The twins stood beside him, wind tugging their jackets, patches newly sewn with the club's insignia. Not as recruits, but as family. Taryn joined them, her gloved hand finding his. They'll grow up knowing love doesn't always come from blood, she said. Nash nodded, the corner of his mouth softening. And knowing family doesn't always ride in the same lane, just the same direction. Engines roared alive, and together they rode. The bridge behind them glimmered like a promise kept. Months later, spring gave way to early summer. The town of Maple Crest had a new tradition now, the Angels Run, a charity ride for children who'd lost parents to hardship or violence. Locals gathered each year, lining the streets with flags, the roar of bikes echoing against the hills like thunder wrapped in grace. At the front, Nash led the convoy, the twins riding in the sidecar, helmets painted with wings. Taryn rode beside them on her own Harley, steady, fearless, free. As they passed the schoolyard, dozens of children cheered, waving handmade signs that read, "Kindness rides with you." One small boy shouted, "That's the man who saved the twins." Nash only smiled, raising 2 fingers in salute. By the time they reached the ridge, sunlight bathed the valley gold. In that light, the patch on Nash's back didn't look like rebellion anymore. It looked like redemption. That night, after the engines quieted and the stars rose high, Nash sat by the bonfire behind the clubhouse. The laughter of his brothers and the children mingled like music. Taryn leaned against him, her voice low. "You think their mama's proud of all this?" Nash stared into the fire, the reflection dancing in his eyes. "Yeah," he said softly. "I think she rides with us every time those engines start." He looked toward the horizon, where the world seemed to stretch wide enough to hold both loss and grace. "We didn't save them," he murmured. "They saved us, reminded us who we were meant to be." The wind carried the echo of Harley engines across the night. Before you go, if this story touched your heart, hit that like, subscribe, and bell icon. Not for fame, but to keep stories like this one rolling on the open road of kindness.